Well, let me begin telling you a story. There's this old Sufi story about two guys walking around. It's in the middle of the night. They're looking up. The sky's clear. And one says, "Oh, look at those two beautiful moons up there." And the guy says, "Two moons? I mean, what are you talking about, man? You must be seeing double. There's just one up there." And he says, "That's nonsense. If I was seeing double, I'd be seeing four of them." Now, you may laugh a little bit or may not, but it's not really a joke because it's pointing out the difference in consciousness. Because sometimes people see one, sometimes two, sometimes three, sometimes four. People see lots of different things. And all of that deals with consciousness. I would almost tell you today that there's nothing more important in your life than consciousness. Consciousness is what you think, what you feel, what you do, how you behave, what you perceive. I mean, it's everything wrapped up together. Consciousness. And so let me give you 3 or 4 facts. Is that what I want to do right now? 3 or 4 facts about consciousness. Consciousness is, here's the legal definition, it is the way we process information and assign meaning to it. And so you know, you and I are meaning makers because we decide what anything means. We take it and we stamp that on there. So that's what consciousness can do. You know, occasionally I wear glasses, and so if I'm wearing glasses and I'm reading a book, that's when I'm usually wearing the glasses, and sometimes the book gets really blurry and I can't hardly see it, and then it finally hits me, oh yeah, I need to clean my glasses. I don't even think about it for a long time. You and I are the same way in that we have lots of lenses of consciousness in front of us. And so when we look at the world, we're not really seeing the world as it is. We see the world as we are. But we often don't think that. We see people not as they are, but as we are. And so it's it's as if we have these color lenses and we look at people all in these different ways. And most of the time we don't even know that. Let me give you 5 facts about consciousness, and then I want to move on to another word. So word number 1 is consciousness. And the first thing I'll say about consciousness is that it affects everything about you. It affects everything in your life. It affects your relationships. It affects how you see people. It affects who you're going to vote for or who you're not going to vote for. It affects how you see the guy or the woman standing on the street saying, "I'll work for money." You think a certain thing, and what you think is determined by the consciousness. Whether you want to have another war if such and such happens, or you're done with war totally, it all depends on consciousness. How you think about spirit, how you think about God, how you think about your body, how you think about your background, how you think about every memory that you can conjure up. All of it has to do with consciousness. So consciousness affects everything. Number 2, most of the time we are totally unaware of it. We think that we have the correct view of any situation. And we assume if I'm seeing 2 moons, there must be 2 moons. Instead of realizing, my perspective can be very small, very different. And so it's understanding that I do see life through these glasses that I carry with me all the time. So your consciousness affects everything. And then number 2, most of the time we're not even aware of it. If we could just become aware of it, it will change every relationship you have. Number 3, consciousness most of the time matures as we grow older. It's sort of like you have to master one stage in consciousness, and then you move to the next one. And then you move to the next one. And then you move to the next one. And at this stage, you look at life and you see it, and you don't see very many possibilities at all. You just see lots of things to be scared of. But then you rise in consciousness, and then there's more possibilities open. And perhaps there's less fear. Perhaps there's things to be courageous about. At this lower stage, you never would have considered courage. But now you get a glimpse of courage. And so consciousness comes in stages. And as we rise, as we go higher, we expand. And we see more and more and more. That's why some of you right now, if we got you up and you were talking, you might describe your life as hell. Some of you would describe your life as heaven. If someone could follow you around all day, maybe the lives look pretty much the same. It really all depends on consciousness. That's why we see some people that have gone through tragedies that we cannot imagine. Some people who could walk could no longer walk. And when you interview these people, they have such joy and such passion. And you think, how could that be? And so as we rise, everything looks different. Number 4, even though the stages unfold in a natural way, the world and the meaning that we attach to it at each stage is radically different. Radically different. It's like, if you're going to walk, before you walk, you're going to have to crawl. And if you're going to run, before you run, you're going to have to walk. And if you're running, you can describe what that's like to someone who's crawling. But if you're crawling, they don't have a clue what you're talking about if you're talking about running. You get the idea? The stages, as you grow, you can look down and understand, oh yeah, I remember how that used to be. But if you're down here and you're seeing somebody doing wonderful things, it's hard to even imagine how that could happen. And so as we grow, everything becomes more and more clear. And then the final fact is that we live in multiple stages at the same time. That's why, you might have somebody, simple examples, you might have somebody who physically is a great athlete, but they can't read. Or you may have someone who, the opposite situation. I always think about President Bill Clinton. I'm not into politics at all, but I'll confess, I sort of liked him. I liked certain things about him, and I read about his background, his childhood, and that interested me. And so as I read about that, you see Bill Clinton has a certain stages in where he was very high. He was a good communicator. He was, I think he probably, I don't know, but I think he probably had a genuine desire to help people. But sexually, he probably was way down here. So that's what I'm saying. Someone may be really great with money, but really have not a spiritual bone in their body, hardly. Or you may find someone that's deeply spiritual, and if they have a chance, they'll take your money. You see, people are all different. It's very complex. And so consciousness is multifaceted. And so that's why we want to look at those areas and see the different areas and see how you may be high in one but low in another one. You could be high in all of them. I mean, you don't know. But it's very complex, this thing about consciousness. But consciousness affects everything that happens in your life. It colors everything you see. And so cutting to the chase and getting to the bottom line is if we could learn something about consciousness, if we could learn something about how to change it, if we could learn how to rise in consciousness, how to expand it, it will profoundly change everything in your life and in my life. It will change everything. So the deal is, how do we do that? Because if we change it, if we expand it, then it will help us move through all of those changes that occur in our lives. It will help us navigate our way through all of those things. And so that especially is an important thing. There may be moments in your life when you were going a certain way and everything was going fine, and then bam, something happens and you go in a totally different direction. You can say, well, I had a turning point. I had a choice point, and I was going this way, and everything changed. At one time, it's hard to believe because I'm so holy, but I used to be a juvenile delinquent, and at one point, they arrested me. I couldn't believe that, but when they arrested me, and I'm sitting in the police car, pulling up into my yard, my mother's out on the porch, bam! That was a turning point. I decided, I think I'll quit stealing stuff. I don't think stealing is going the way I thought it would go. I thought it would be fun. But this doesn't seem so much fun with my mom heading toward me with a broomstick. So, there's turning points, you see. There's turning points where you see it's a pivotal point for you. Now, sometimes that happens in an instant. Sometimes it's mystical. It's like lightning strikes. And then other times, it takes months. It takes years. It's very slow. But no matter how it comes to you, It produces radical changes in your life. And it doesn't mean if it happens quickly for you or slow, it doesn't mean one way is better than the other or one way is more spiritual than the other. But the truth is that it brings about tremendous change. And I tell you, I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you the second word was transformation? Yeah, second word is transformation. So we have consciousness, word number one. Word number two is transformation. And I'm going to tell you the transformation of consciousness happens a lot more than you think. Sometimes people just think it happens occasionally. It happens to those lucky people. It's probably in many ways happened to you already. And you may call it something else, but still, transformation happens. And it's always radical when it happens because it changes how you think. It changes how you see people. It changes your moods. It changes what you do with your life. It changes everything in your life. It's a good thing. Consciousness. You could put a string out or a continuum, and on one side you have someone who's totally awake and alert in consciousness. Over on the other extreme, you may have somebody in a coma or someone in dreamless sleep, someplace you visit every night. And so most of us probably go back and forth almost every 24 hours. We go back and forth, back and forth. If you go to the hospital, they put you to sleep. You travel that thing really quickly. Most of the time, it takes about 24 hours, and there are times when you're very much awake, time when you're dreaming, and then sometimes when you're in dreamless sleep. Too much of that, I didn't mean to say all that. But the idea is that consciousness is very movable. You're moving all the time. In meditation, I talked about the blue sky. And so if you think about it like that, you can think about it as weather patterns. And so you think the consciousness is the blue sky, and under the blue sky you have all kinds of weather patterns. You have all kinds of experiences. And if you think of it like that, you see it gives you a lot more freedom because you understand those little weather patterns just come and go. But what you really are is the blue sky. What you really are is the consciousness. How many of you are optimistic, would you say? How many of you are pessimistic? A few. You know, it's funny, when we're optimistic, we must feel like being optimistic is better somehow. If you tend to be optimistic, then in your consciousness, you probably have some agreements that you've made with yourself. Like, people are good. People won't let you down. Solutions are always possible. And so that's how you see life. If you tend to be pessimistic, then you might think, well, the world isn't so safe. People might start a war for no reason at all. Maybe there's going to be a need that I'm going to have to defend myself because people will tell lies about you. And so if you're coming from that position, you'll see life in that way. But what if, because all that deals with consciousness, what if we could actually change it? I mean, what if we could actually do that as an individual? It would change everything. Maybe the marriage you're in that you despise might be okay. Or maybe the marriage you're in that you think is pretty good might end up being hell and you might think, I'm getting out of here. It would change it though. It would change everything. It would change how you think about your parents, how you think about your children, how you think about your job. Everything. Everything. See, it makes sense to me that if we're going to make big decisions, if we're going to make major decisions, we want to make it from the highest perspective. Not make it from fear, worry, and doubt, but make it from the highest perspective. I think I said this, but we see the world not as it is, but we see the world as we are. And that's not just a quote. I mean, that's actually how it is. So, Michael Beckwith. I love Michael Beckwith. And he has a few books, but he has a book called Life Visioning. And so we're using that book, and he's kind of an inspiration for this month. Because what we're doing, Michael says, Darian's filming me. People hate to film me.
You're not that bad.
Okay, so Michael, in his book, says consciousness has 4 stages. Now, consciousness is much bigger than that. But it gives us a good guide to go by, because the first thing you have to know is, number one, where are you in consciousness? You've got to ask yourself that. And then you can ask, where do you want to go? And so just looking at those 4 stages can give you sort of an idea to work with. Now, his 4 stages, that doesn't mean that you do one and then you graduate and move to number 2 and then you move 3 and 4. It's not linear, because you may go to 1 and you may go to 2 and then you may have to go back to 1 and then you may jump up to 4. So it just means those are the stages you're working with. And what's interesting is that the first 2 deal with visualization. And that's where you're talking to the Lord, so to speak. You're proclaiming to the universe what you'd like to have. You're praying to Jesus and saying, please give me a man, give me a woman, give me some money, give me a car, give me a house, give me some shoes. You're throwing it out to the universe. Now, those first 2 stages come under that. Visualization, what you're wanting in your life. Stage 3 and 4, they don't deal with that. They deal with not getting the message out. They deal with you saying to Spirit, well, it's good to see you. They deal with saying to Spirit, come through me. Thy will be done. Flow through me. The shaman would say, I want to be a hollow bone. Come on through me, baby. And so that's stage 3 and 4. So 1 is visualization and 1 is visioning. 1 is being a creator, and then the second one is being a channel. 1 and 2, I think, are things that we have to come back to sometimes, because we want to create certain things in our lives, but we don't want to get stuck there. You don't want to just be running around creating cars every day. That'd be pretty boring and actually pretty selfish, probably. Although I wouldn't judge it, but it could be self-centered. So what we want to really move into is allowing Spirit to move through us. We want to allow Spirit to use us. And then, when you get to that higher stage, it's not as if Spirit, who is maybe over there somewhere, going to come over and use me, but then Spirit actually steps into me. And then it's like, oh, Spirit is inside me now. But then, as you get into a higher stage, you begin to think, not only is Spirit inside me, I am Spirit. So that is really moving into a higher consciousness. You can look at Buddha and Jesus and all the other people you'd like to look at. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Malcolm X is a great one to look at. You can look at all these different people, and you can read about their lives and see them move through these stages. They may say it in different ways, but you can see people move through these stages. I don't know where you happen to be. Today, let me just mention the first 2. And the first one, I forgot my notes now, so I don't really know where I am, but let's just assume I do. So if I do, I would say what? I would say stage 1 is the victim stage. Now, this stage in consciousness, this may be where you are. I mentioned in the early service, we had 25 people in the early service. Isn't that wild? So in that earlier service, I told them I had gone to Kentucky, and in Kentucky, settling my parents' estate, doing some work there, and people walking around with guns and stuff. It's a different kind of culture there. And so a couple times I felt a little victimizing inside me. Didn't stay there long, but you could feel it. And especially in that whole culture, it's sort of a feeling of being a victim. Because the victim mentality is, look what life has done to me. You look at your parents and you say, look what you've done to me. You look at your dog and you say, look what you've done to me. You look at life and life situations and you say, why me? So that's the mantra. And you feel like something is doing something bad to you. It could be Jesus. It could be the devil. It could be your astrological sign. It could be your parent. It could be your child. It could be anything. I've got a cat next door, and that cat is big and huge, and he hates me. And I told you some time ago, I was out in the backyard some time ago, and he ran at me. I'm just hanging out. And he ran, I had jeans on, and he ran and locked himself onto my leg. And it's funny because I pride myself, I took karate for 5 years, so I know what to do. And I didn't do anything. The cat is locked onto me and I'm going, and then when he's finished, he jumps off and just kind of walks away like this. Now, why did I tell you that? Because I was such a victim. We ended up calling these people. They came and took him away and put him in a cage and watched him for 2 weeks. They thought I was going to have shots. And I guess I did have to have some cleaning done and stuff. But that's how sometimes we feel about life. Life is going to jump on me. It's going to do horrible things to me. Now, a lot of people live there. If you live there, then your whole life is a reaction. Your whole life is a reaction. You're paying close attention to what's happening around you because what's happening around you is doing all of this stuff to you. So I don't recommend you stay there. I mean, I don't recommend it's a great place to be. In that domain, you become very religious and you pray a lot. Lord, help me. Help me, help me, help me. Or you would sing the song. I think Johnny Cash did the song. Why me? What have I ever done? That's who did the song. He wrote the song. He wrote the song. And so, it's the why me. And so I'm suggesting, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because once we begin to tell those stories, we begin to pile them on top of one another and create it. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Some people used to call it race consciousness because it means everybody worries, so I worry. Everybody's afraid, and so I join the race, and I do that too. But we want to rise above that. So here's stage 2. Zoe, here it comes. Ready? Here's stage 2. Stage 2 is what I'm going to call the creator stage. Now, there have been books and books and books and books and videos about how to create the life of your dreams. We used to be able, a few years ago, to advertise we're going to share the secret with you, and we could raise a crowd. Because everybody wanted to know. I mentioned to the other group that somebody sent me an email last night offering, I think it was $750, maybe $800 to get, so I could become certified in the law of attraction. I didn't know they had a certification. And so I ordered that and I signed Andy's name. Because you had loaned me your card. You did, yeah. So I used that. But I didn't really do that. But I mean, this is a big deal. People talk about it all the time. And so I want to break it down a little bit. I want to break it down. Break it down, and I want to break it down and just say, hey, let's just say it this way. Let's just say there's 3 laws that you need to know about. Now, I'm not saying we're going to stay here, because next week we're moving on. But this is a good place to come if you don't have a job. It's a good place to come if you need some love and you don't have any love going on. It's a good place to come and create what you desire. So let's break it down in 3 laws, and that will make it simple. Law number 1 is the law of attraction. And that basically says, if I summarized it, it would say, thoughts have vibration. And they can actually measure that. If you think really, really happy thoughts and they've got you hooked up, well, they can tell. And if you're thinking really sad thoughts, well, that measures too. They can tell. And so, really happy thoughts have high frequency. Depressing thought, I'm about to kill myself, is probably low frequency unless you're really excited about killing yourself. And then it could actually be high because you get down. You know what I mean? So it registers that way. And so the law of attraction definition is this. That which is like unto itself is drawn. Jesus said, ask and it shall be given. And so the idea is whatever you give your attention to causes you to emit a vibration. So if you're thinking, oh God, my toes hurt, you're going to be feeling bad. If your toes are hurting and you're thinking, oh my, I love my new hairstyle, then you're going to be feeling good because it's all about your attention. So if your attention, see, that's why don't let reality make you feel bad. If reality is going to make you feel bad, quit looking at it. Because nothing is more important than feeling good. Why feel bad? Because that's going to set it up where you may get some other surprise packages that may not be that much fun. Now, I'm going to say a few other things, but let me go ahead and say this. So somebody might say, so are you saying then when I got cancer, it's because I was thinking bad thoughts? Are you saying my baby died and my baby died because I was thinking bad thoughts? No, I'm not that stupid. I'm not that stupid to say that. I think in general, it's like Earl Nightingale said years ago in his little LP that he released. He said, you get in your life what you think about most of the time. And I think that's true. I think that's a general principle. But then sometimes, we're going about our business and we're doing really well and everything's great, and then something happens. Things can happen for other reasons than just your thought. Things can happen sometimes because you need a lesson and you've set it up before you even got here. I need to learn this. That's why I'm coming to the planet, so give it to me. And so you're doing your thing. You're practicing the law of attraction. You get slapped in the side of the head. And it's not because you did anything bad. It's because you're here to learn something. Or it may turn out to be a blessing. You may, when it comes to you, you may think, oh, this is horrible. But then as you sit with it for a while, it turns out to be the greatest thing in the world that ever happened to you. So you see, life is complex. So you don't want to be, simply judging things back and forth. But you do want to know this. There is tremendous power in feeling good, focusing on these high vibrational activities, feeling good, expecting the best, and if something else comes in, you don't cry and beat yourself up. I always love that story that Abraham told about, she said, Esther Hicks said something like, person wakes up and says, I've never made my bed, but I'm going to start making my bed every day. And they felt good about it. And then the lady said, I haven't made the bed for years. I feel really horrible about it. And Abraham said, forget about that stuff. If you decide to make the bed, make the bed. Don't even think about the past, because it doesn't exist anymore. You're in the moment now. And so it doesn't matter what you've created in the past. That's my point. You can begin right now and create what it is that you want. And your best way to do that, this law of attraction really does help people. It really does work. I got my... What'd you say?
Boomstick.
Boomstick. I've never called it a boomstick. I call it my love stick. Boomstick. I use this for many reasons, but I use it because just think of this. Let's call this stick my money stick. And let's say this side is abundance, and this side is poverty. And it's about time for me to write a few checks and pay some bills. So I pick up in my mind my money stick. And the question is, which end lights up? If this end lights up, it means I think, I'm so thankful I get to pay these bills. It's so much fun to pay bills. I'm excited because money just rolls in. It always does. Everything always works out. You never know what the tide's going to bring in. I'm always taken care of. I just love life. Or I could think, oh my God, I don't have enough money. I don't know what's going to happen. There's no promise in the future. What if I break my leg? Oh no, what's going to happen? Or in my case, what if I break my tongue? Then I can't talk. Oh no. And so every topic is really two subjects. If this is your love stick, I've got so much love in my life, I don't have any love at all. Nobody loves me. Nobody will ever love me. I'm not worthy at all. Or here, man, everybody's going to love me. They're standing in line just waiting. I got to figure out whether to let them in the door or the window. And so it all depends. And so see, some people say, well, I've been thinking about money. I've been focusing on money. But what are you focusing on? That ain't got none. Well, you see, if you get what you think about all day long. So you don't want to be thinking that, because that's what you get all day long. So, that's the idea. That's good, isn't it? Yeah, that's good. Okay. That's good. I like that stick idea. Okay. Some people would say this. The Bible says, you reap what you sow. Buddhists say, what comes around goes around. Judaism says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Catherine Ponder said, what you radiate outward in your thoughts and feelings and mental pictures and words is going to come back to you. W. Clement Stone said in 1902, keep your mind, this is really good, keep your mind off the things you don't want. Now that is good advice. And then they said, how did you do that? And he said, by keeping your mind on the things you do want. And that will keep you busy. And so that's good advice. Now, the Bible teaches, whether you like the idea or not, the Bible does teach that God constantly God gives two streams. So picture God on the throne. Haloed, robe, big gold G. And he's sending two streams out into the world. One stream is the stream of well-being, and one stream is the stream of bad stuff. Are you with me? Amen. Well, I don't believe that. So maybe you do, but apparently you do because you're with me. But God only has one stream. God has a stream of well-being. I don't see God sending out any bad stuff at all. If you read through the Bible, it says God is continually giving good and precious gifts to everybody. You know, it puzzled the people in Jesus' day because he said, hey, it's raining on the good people and the bad people. I mean, the rain just flows. And so it's always being given. Well, why do some people get it and some people not? It has something to do with resistance. It has something to do with feeling like you're worthy. It has something to do with feeling like, well, it doesn't belong to me. And so Jesus said, when you ask, it is given, and then all you must do is receive. So 3 steps. You ask, it's given, but where we get in trouble is the receiving part. Because we sit in the house and say, I know it's not going to work. I know it can't work. I know nothing's ever worked for me. And we go down our list and it makes us feel bad. So what we want to work on is receiving it. Receiving it. And the best way to do that, if you want something, then you want to achieve vibrational harmony with it, and it will be yours. And the other thing that's really cool, and you may know all about this, but you might not, so let me tell you. The other thing that's wonderful is that all of us have a guidance system inside of us. It's stored in your left knee. How many of you have a left knee? Just about everybody. It's stored there, and right there in the left knee. Would you rub my knee for me? I can tell you don't really want to. Yeah, that hurts. It hurts, man. Okay. You actually have a guidance system inside of you, and it's not in your left knee. Just a joke to entertain myself. It is made up of your emotions. Yeah. And so that means God is, you can think of God or you can think of DNA. Let's think of God. God is love. God is joy. God is abundance. So if you harmonize and believe that, you're going to feel good. But if you move away from that, your emotions are going to feel bad. You can think of it as if you have spiritual DNA, and your spiritual DNA says you are worthy. If you believe you're worthy, your emotions say, yeah, this feels good. But if you say, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, you are going to feel depressed. Why? Because your emotions are saying, what the hell's wrong with you? You are love. You are peace. You are everything good. And you're denying that. And when you deny it, you are misaligned with spirit. So your emotions tell you constantly whether or not you're lining up with spirit or not. If you're feeling bad, it's because you're believing a lie. So that's why you can be so thankful if you feel really awful, because you can think, oh, I am believing something not so good. Let me check it out and see what it is. And so as you come into alignment with good, you'll begin to feel good. If you believe it. If you still don't believe it, you're still going to feel bad. You've got to get yourself in a position where almost like if you're wanting something in your life, you're almost thankful for it already. It just feels normal. This is mine. It belongs to me. It's who I am. I deserve everything that's good. Now, that doesn't mean everything good is going to happen. Occasionally, things happen and it may not be all that hot or something, but if we do this, in general, life really gets exciting. It really gets good. And what's good about it is you get your basic needs met, you get your basic needs taken care of, and then you can let all that stuff go and move to these higher levels. Because it's hard to move to the higher level if you don't have any food. It's hard to move to the higher level if there's no love in your life at all. So these things help you get those structures met so you can move on. Does that make sense? Okay. So what else do I want to say? It's like a radio. You just turn your frequency to what you're wanting. What else do I want to say? Anything else? Law of attraction, do it. It's working all the time. It works when, it works when you believe it. It works when you don't believe it. It's working 24/7. You don't have the luxury of saying, hey, I think for a month, I'm going to think every bad thing I can, and I'm going to feel as bad as I can for a month. And that'd be okay. Because if you're really focusing on that, then you're creating a situation that may not be all that much fun. We know for sure because, the quantum physics people tell us this. At the quantum level, we do know that everything is entangled. That if an atom is here and there's another one on the other side of the world, that there's communication between the two, and it's not at the speed of light, it's instantaneous. Now, I don't know what that means when it comes to this level of where we are now. But, it kind of gives the idea that all of us, of course, are connected in some way or the other. So let me finish up. I told you I'm going to give you 3 laws, right? Let me give you the other 2 real quick. Law number 1 is law of attraction. Law number 2 is the law of deliberate action. And what that means is this. Most of us create by default. Most of us are not thinking what we want. We're just kind of going along through life. And so we're not really focused on it. It's hit and miss. Sometimes things work out well, and then sometimes they don't. And it's as if the world is in charge of us. If good things happen, we go, whoo, I'm happy now. If something negative happens, oh, I'm depressed now. This second law is the law of deliberate creation, which means you quit letting the world tell you how you feel. You decide. And so you are deliberate in your creation. You do it deliberately. You decide what you want in your life and you begin working on that and envisioning that. And so it's deliberate. So law of attraction, you achieve the frequency and it comes to you. This one, law of deliberate, what did I say? Deliberate action? Is that what I say? Nobody really knows. What is that? Deliberate action?
Deliberate action.
And the word here is intention. You set your intention. And then the final law is the law of allowing. This is where we get in trouble. Because allowing means we would sit down and say, I deserve this. Allowing means we say, I'm open. Allowing says, give it to me. In fact, the law of allowing says it's mine already. I just don't see it yet. I can't remember. I think an elephant hangs out in the elephant womb for 565 days. Close to that. A mouse is only there 21 days. Chicken, 21 days. Human, how many days is it? 250 something? 256? Close, something like that. Kangaroos, 33 days. It's very tiny. And then it crawls out and crawls into the pouch and it finds the teat. You know what teat is? It's a farm expression. Mary Pat's going, don't do that. I grew up with teats. And on a farm. And so that's what the book said. I'm not making this up. The little kangaroo crawls in and he puts his little mouth on that teat. And he spends the next, I think, 230 days sucking on that teat. But occasionally he crawls up and looks around. And then goes back. A carrot, I think, takes 70 days. You plant it, and before you eat it, it's 70 days. Now, what does all this mean? It means this. When you begin to create, when you begin to dream, when you begin to plant your seed, it takes time. Sometimes it comes faster than others. Truth is, it doesn't really matter when it comes because you're in the light. Because if you're watching your clock and looking at the calendar, you're pushing it away. Because you want to be just thankful. You know everything's taken care of. Some of you may have the faith of the kangaroo, which means you can come up and look around and say, I don't see it yet. Or there it is, it's over there. I think it's coming my way. But most of the time, you don't want to go out and dig up your carrot. You don't want to go out after a week and dig up the corn to see, is it doing anything yet? Here's what you want to do. This is not easy. Trust. So you want to understand you can attract anything into your life. You want to understand it's deliberate, you set the intention, and it's done. Either that or something better. You set up allowing, which means you allow it to come. The good things you're wanting are outside your door right now. They're knocking. They're knocking on your door, knocking on your window, climbing through your basement if you've got one. But the door's locked. The windows are locked. And they're locked because something's blocking it. And what often blocks it is we don't believe good should happen to us. But if you know who you are, you know good is to happen to everybody. And everybody includes you. And then what you have to do, take a breath, is trust. And so, no more victim. Going to create it. And so then next week we'll go to these other stages. So I think that's all I had to say. That was a good biology lesson. Good biology lesson. Thank you. I enjoyed that. Okay, and next week I'm also going to tell you, just so you know, next week I want to give you several things you can do just to feel absolutely joyful about everything. So we'll talk about that.